Hi, Zoology. Thank you for clicking on our first set of notes. I just want to give you a little background for how these notes are going to go. So because it's a video, all of my PowerPoint slides are basically just pictures with one sentence on it. So all the information I'm going to be giving you is through me talking. So if you need to pause the video at any point to write down something or go back and listen to it again because I said something but you didn't quite catch it, please do that. And email me if you have any questions. I'm going to do my best to make all of these notes very short and all of these videos very short so that we can just kind of go through this semester as best we can. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Okay, so our first set of notes is called classification and taxonomy. This is all basic bio stuff that we should learn, but I just want to do a little review and refresher for it that make sure everyone's on the same page and we are ready to start zoology off on a good foot. So taxonomy. Taxonomy is the branch of science that groups and organizes and classifies organisms based on their characteristics. Characteristics like, do they have a backbone? Do they have gills? Do they have flippers, feathers, scales? Like what about them? But not only characteristics that we see, but also developmental characteristics. Like what do they look like when they are growing? Do they go from a larva to a cocoon to a butterfly? Like what is their stages of development? And then what is their evolutionary history? Where did they show up on the fossil record? What organisms are they closely related to? Are they from like 4,000 or 450 million years ago, or are they more recent? And what characteristics do they have in common? So taxonomy is going to play a big role into how we look at our organisms in this class. This dude, Aristotle, he was a Greek philosopher and teacher in 300 BC. He was the first person to start classifying and organizing organisms during his philosophical teachings. The problem, and I'm going to cut into that in the next slide, is he only came up with two groups. He said it's either a plant or it's an animal, and that was it. So he was really limited in what he knew, but again, it was 300 BCE. Like, that was a long time ago, and their understanding of science wasn't very deep. So, like I said, Aristotle's system had a few problems with it. There were only two groups, and we know now, going into that there are things like funguses, there are things like protists, bacterias. So there's so much more than just plants and animals. They don't fall into those categories. So now our system has 6 different kingdoms, and all of those have different classes. From there, like talking about common names of organisms, all of Aristotle's systems produced organisms with common names. My example that I gave you on the slide is a jellyfish and a seahorse. A jellyfish is not a fish. It's not considered a fish. It's not even close to being a fish. It's not a fish. And a seahorse is a fish, but their names are misleading and confusing and really strange. And also think about like a sea cucumber. It is not a cucumber. It's not even a plant. It is an animal, and we are naming it wrong. Whatever. I'm mad about sea cucumbers. Also, finally, we have a variety of names based on their location. So the picture that I put up is a mountain lion, as you call it in Oklahoma, but I am from Florida, and we call that the Florida panther. And I also know people up north that would call that a puma. So that's 3 different names for the same organism. We could all be talking about the same cat, but yeah, all of us are calling it different things. So that leads to a lot of confusion, a lot of misleading, and a lot of misunderstanding. So can we come up with a solution? Yes, they did. They started to use Latin descriptive names to help them come up with scientific names. The describing names of Latin were kind of ridiculous and like 3 sentences long to describe a tree. And so that was a little bit daunting. And it wasn't until this man, Carolus Linnaeus, showed up on the scene and made a new naming system called binomial nomenclature. So bi means two, nom, N-O-M, means name. So he came up with a two-name system for all organisms. And he did this by building a hierarchy or a level of organization for all of the organisms on the planet. And it starts with these 7 levels over here. And it's domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. I would pause the video right here and copy those all down because those are going to be really important for us to remember. There are 3 domains, Archaeobacteria, Eubacteria, and Eukarya. We are going to be in domain Eukarya. And then there are 6 kingdoms, Protista, Archaea, Eubacteria, animal, plantae, and fungi. We are going to be in the animal kingdom. And everything that we're going to be learning is going to be within the animal kingdom, but we're going to focus on phylums. So we're going to be looking at different phylums in the animal kingdom and comparing them to each other. His binomial nomenclature focused on the genus name and the species name to make its 2-name system. And I gave 2 examples. One, Homo sapiens, hopefully everyone knows that, that's the humans. Homo is the genus name and sapiens is the species name. And then I give another example, Felis concolor. So Felis is the genus name and concolor is the species name. That is the Florida panther, mountain lion, puma, whatever you want to call it. Its scientific name is Felis concolor. So everyone in the world that says Felis concolor, if there are scientists that work with that, should know exactly what you're talking about. And that was what was perfect about this binomial nomenclature. Also, if you'll notice in the scientific name, the genus name is capitalized, but the species name is lowercase. And that's just the way that we write it. It has to be that way. Don't ever capitalize species name. I'll count it wrong. Okay, I'm glad we're done with that. And the final thing that we're going to talk about is how do we show those relationships between the different organisms? If I have a sea cucumber and a mountain lion and a person, a human, how can I show that there are some relationships between them? And that we have something called a cladogram. They're also called phylogenetic trees, but I think cladogram is easier to say. So we're going to go with cladogram. The cladogram is, there's an example here off to the right of what a cladogram looks like. They're just branching diagrams that show what traits and characteristics that organism has. So each line, each segment, that's specific to the organism that's on top. And I'm going to go through an example with actual animals on the next slide. This is just a plant organism one because it was easier to read. All right, so I'm going to move myself down here to this corner. This is kind of the basic cladogram that you would see. I want and hope that you're going to be able to read these very easily and hope that you're going to be able to build them on your own. Tomorrow, you're going to be working on building a cladogram by playing a game to see what traits and characteristics go with what organisms and how you can put them and organize them to who's more closely related. So this characteristic, vertebral column, is only in the organisms that are to the right of the word. So here is vertebral column. Lancet does not have a vertebral column, but everything to the right of it does. So lamprey, tuna, salamander, turtle, and leopard all have a vertebral column. If we look at 4 walking legs, everything to the right of it has 4 walking legs, but to the left, they don't have 4 walking legs. So knowing that and thinking about that, the way that we tell if organisms are closely related is if if they have more characteristics in common. So if I was looking at a turtle, a salamander, and a tuna, and I was trying to figure out which organism is more closely related to the turtle, the tuna, or the salamander, the answer would be the salamander, because the salamander has 1, 2, 3 characteristics in common with the turtle, whereas the tuna only has 1, 2 characteristics in common. And if we were looking at the leopard, the salamander, and the tuna, again, it would be the salamander because they have 3 characteristics in common, but the tuna only has 2. So that's how we look at those. If you still need more help, I will be glad to send you more. But like I said, tomorrow we are going to be working on building our own and seeing which organisms are closely related. So hopefully that practice will give you a little bit more. I just wanted to give you some basic information on how they work. So to sum up our class, gotta move myself again. To sum up our class, we looked at Aristotle's system. We looked at the problems and those solutions paired with his system and how they were a little bit fussy. We looked at how Carolus Linnaeus, oh, bless him, brought us the binomial nomenclature in our modern day naming system. And then finally, we looked at our cladogram, that branching illustration that showed us those relationships between organisms. So hopefully everybody got it, understood. If not, like I said, thank you for watching. You can watch this video again anytime you need it. Go back, listen to some parts. But if you still have questions, go ahead and post them to the Canvas question board or ask me during office hours or email me. Whatever you need, I am here to support you. Now stop sharing, and I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.